Hello, this is Craig Mertens, Director of Product Education for Inktavo, the parent company of InkSoft, Graphics Flow, Printavo, and now SignTracker. Welcome to our webinar today. With me, my cohort and partner, Joel Taylor, who's Customer Service Manager at InkSoft. So we are going to talk about a topic that's really kind of exciting, which is direct-to-film. And we're going to approach it from two angles. We're going to approach it from the angle of people that want to use their InkSoft platform to sell transfers. And we're also going to approach it from the angle of people that want to use direct-to-film transfers for doing print on demand. I had a customer, Mark Heiss in Yellow Springs, Ohio, called me up in the summer of 2020 and said, "Hey, I bought this printer. What do you know about direct-to-film?" And I was like, "What's direct-to-film?" And I'd never heard of it. I had no idea what it was. It was novel to me. I always try to stay pretty tuned into imprinting technology. So I immediately went online, did a little YouTube video, and found some videos from Supacolor. And I'm like, wait a minute. Dark substrates, cotton and blends, full color, digital heat transfer, great hand, great color vibrancy. I knew it was going to rock the decorated apparel world. I mean, seriously, I knew. As soon as I saw this, I was like, this is going to change everything. And it has. It was interesting. Last year at the Impression Show in Long Beach, there was maybe 10 or 15 printers max at that show. And same thing at the Printing United show in Las Vegas. This year at the Printing United show in Atlanta, I'm sure there was over 100 printers. And at the Impression show when we just came back from in Long Beach, there was well over 100 printers. I gave up counting. It seemed like every other booth had a direct-to-film printer in it. It has taken over our industry because it is the perfect solution for a lot of the problems that we face as apparel decorators. So, for instance, being able to do small production runs on cotton, dark substrates, full color digital, so we're not relying on having to go in and do screen print process separations or simulated process separations. So it's given our clients a lot of flexibility. And as somebody that's Director of Product Education for an e-commerce company and also for a company that does shop management and graphic software, direct-to-film has been an absolute just revelation for us. We are just uniquely positioned in the marketplace to really serve our clients with that technology. So I want to talk a little bit about direct-to-film and the technology. And the main reason is I want to talk about the differences between direct-to-film transfers and hybrid digital transfers, because there is a difference. And what you see on the screen right here is you see a direct-to-film transfer system. And it's an inkjet printer. The majority of these printers are made in China. I think there's a kind of a small assortment of factories that are making these printers, and they custom build them with their own chassis and colors and print heads. But basically, it's a solvent inkjet printer. It's got an ink set in it, and then it has a polymer sheet, which is a plastic sheet. And that plastic sheet is what we're printing the color onto. And then the last thing that's printed is white. And then as that's coming out of the printer, it's going through a shaker unit that's doing three things. Number one, it's applying a powder-coated adhesive to the film. And so it's putting that adhesive on. And number two is it's curing the film. And in this case, what it's doing is it's also rolling the film up onto a take-up reel. So in these types of printers, especially these smaller format direct-to-film printers, it's an end-to-end production cycle. Now, think about this for a second. If you're going to print, and if you look at that photo, and you look at where the film is coming out of the printer, and you look at the end where the take-up roll is, that's how much material you're going to have to waste to prime that printer. You're going to have to waste about, in that particular case, probably 7 or 8 feet of material just to have the printer primed, so you can start printing, because it's got to be threaded all the way through the shaker unit. So this is the common way of doing it. There's many companies that are producing these printers. They're done at a, kind of a micro level there's some small desktop printers that we're seeing in the marketplace, where instead of using the shaker unit, people are actually hand shaking with trays. And that's something I would recommend because there's some environmental issues there. But then there's another process. And the other process is called hybrid digital transfers. This is a different process. This is the primary process that Supacolor pioneered. And I had the great privilege of meeting Bill Armit, and I'm friends with Romalia from Supacolor. We did a co-presentation at the Impression Show. Bill was one of the people that invented this process, this hybrid digital process. He's the inventor of it. He came up with the idea, and basically they took a HP Indigo printer, that's the small one you're seeing on the screen there. and that printer is probably 35, 40 feet long. And they figured out a way to use digital offset printing to print the color part. And then they created a hybrid system where they get to screen print the white underbase and the adhesive. And there's quite a few advantages to doing that because they can vary the chemistry. They're not limited to what an inkjet can print, for instance, on the white part of it, but they can also vary the chemistry on the white because they're screen printing it. So they can put in like a sublimation blocker, prevent like a burgundy shirt from bleeding through, the polyester burgundy shirt bleeding through into the transfer and turning it pink, or creating a specialized transfer for doing 6-panel hats. So a little bit thicker transfer so it covers up the seam, specialized adhesive that presses at a lower temperature so it can go on to Cordura. So there's a lot more flexibility in this hybrid digital process. With that being said, it's certainly not conducive to one-offs, because with a one-off transfer, you're not going to burn screens and screen print an underbase for a one-off transfer. And Supacolor was doing this process with 12-piece minimum, which is remarkable to me. Now, that being said, they developed their own direct-to-film printer, and they're doing direct-to-film in addition to the hybrid digital transfers. And it's a great product. I've noticed from my own personal consumer habits, I tend to like the hybrid digital transfers a little bit better because they have a softer hand. They're thinner. Both great transfers, great technologies. So we talked about why the hybrid digital transfers are different from direct-to-film transfers. And by the way, this is the printing unit. This is just a tiny little part of the printing and finishing unit that is used to take the digital offset transfer, which is using roller plates to print and to do the screen printing of the adhesive, as well as the screen printing of the white underbase. And it's got a stacking unit. They're very automated. And Ron was telling me that the actual unit is over 50 feet long. So that's pretty crazy. And they run, in every one of their production facilities, they run 2 printers, and each production line is well over $1 million. So just to get started in this is going to be over $2 million, and you have to have a full-time mechanic working on them. So this is not for the small shop. This is industrial level printing. I also wanted to talk about why this is a big deal. We kind of alluded to that before, but I look at this as a premium decoration process. I have to look at my own personal consumer habits and the habits that we have, our uniforms that we wear for trade shows. We've moved everything over to, hybrid digital transfers with Supacolor because the wash durability is so much better. We would wash our screen printed, shirts, and after 3-4 washings, they start to crack and they don't look great. Where the shirt that I'm wearing right now, I don't know, I probably wash it 10 or 15 times and it looks brand new. And it's on 100% cotton and it's on a dark shirt. So the digital heat transfers are a big deal for the following reasons. Number one, light or dark substrates. So you can put them on either. Also, small production runs. So you can do, in the case of direct-to-film, one-offs. There's no advantage really to do 100 transfers with 100 different designs or 100 transfers with the same design because it's digital output. And the other part that I think is really important is the flexibility in terms of substrates you can put it on. So it's not just the light versus dark thing. It's also the variety of substrates. If you talk about like performance fabrics, which are something that screen printers universally hate to print on, and weird locations like backpacks and things of that nature, with direct-to-film and hybrid digital transfers, customers have a lot more flexibility in terms of unusual locations that are not fun to print on, as well as fabrics that formerly were challenging. And as far as performance wear, honestly, you really can't beat this technology. There you go. There's a backpack with a direct-to-film transfer that was heat pressed onto a finished backpack, not onto a panel. One of the things that you'll start to see lots more of is commercial high production rate heat presses. So following behind this technology is this whole evolution of high production rate heat transfer presses that can print 300 to 500 presses an hour, which is amazing. So I just kind of wanted to lay the foundation and talk a little bit about the technology and how can it fit into your business. If you're a screen printer and you want to take orders that are smaller production run orders and you don't want to have to set up screens and you want to offer a 12 or 6-piece minimum to your customers, charge a premium for it, you can run that through direct-to-film or hybrid transfers. If you want to set up a print-on-demand program where maybe you invest in 50 transfers, put them on a shelf, open up a InkSoft store and have people order and then deplete the transfers down to a minimum order quantity where you reorder, you can do that now. You just have the transfers sitting on a shelf and you can just press them as they come in. There's not a big financial outlay to do that. So it has changed the dynamic of our industry. And what we're also seeing is that traditional kind of resistance to heat transfers. I think the script has been flipped a little bit. I think what you're starting to see now is people saying, hey, I prefer this process to screen printing, especially when you get into the photographic images. You just can't touch direct to film and hybrid when you talk about printing photos. You just can't do that with screen printing. And sublimation is going to be limited to polyester substrates. And you look at like print and cut, some of the other technologies, print and cut is going to be, a heavier hand. You have to have a background behind it. And direct to garment printing, I think, is the closest competitor to direct to film, but then you have all the maintenance issues and you're not doing roll to roll. When you're on a direct to garment printer, you're sitting there married to the printer, loading shirts, pressing, loading shirts. If you're doing transfers, you could have 2 or 3 people running transfers and you're just banging them out. And now with these high production rate multi-head heat presses, that's really a kind of a non-issue. So we're going to talk a little bit about InkSoft. So we put together a little outline today. And so one of the things that we're going to kind of talk about first is for many of our clients that have invested in direct-to-film printing systems are now selling bulk heat transfers. And I think the industry term that people are using is what we call gang sheets, where you have a sheet and you fill that sheet up with as many transfers as you can fit on that. Well, what we didn't realize when this technology took hold is that the InkSoft Designer and the InkSoft Store platform is kind of the ideal platform to do this. And so I wanted to take time in the webinar today to have Joel show you 2 methods for setting up gang sheets in the InkSoft environment, one using a signage product, and there's advantages to both, and the other one using a traditional non-signage product. So over to you, Joel.
So a couple differences between these two, and I think we'll just get into it as we go. It'll make sense as we move along. So we'll create a new product first. It's called DTF transfer.
And if you're the manufacturer here, you would go in and set yourself up as probably both the supplier and the manufacturer, because you are the manufacturer in this particular case.
So once you fill this in, we'll save it. And so this is a normal, let's call it an apparel product. So with that, we're going to have to set it up a little bit differently when compared to a signage product. So what we're going to do here, let's say we'll just offer 24 by 24. We'll set our status to active and we'll assign it to a store. We'll save that for now. And then we're going to upload an image here. So with an apparel product, the image that you upload here is the image the customer sees while in the designer. And then with a signage product, the image you upload to a product is not what they see in the designer. So we'll get to that once we create the signage product. So let's go ahead and upload a grid here.
And so what's important here is to create a grid. The reason for that is so the customer gets an idea of perspective and scale. And so this grid is set up as it's 24 by 24. So it's 24 up, 24 down in 1-inch increments. And so that allows the customer to get an idea of scale when they're laying things out, which is really, really important.
Let's see, fixed price. Let's say our supplier costs, let's just put 5 cents. And then the price per transfer, $8. And then lastly, we need to set up a print region. So we just have the front. We're just doing a one side. Hit the plus sign here. We'll call it DTF and the width here. So I have this already created. If you guys don't have this in your account, you'll probably want to create this and then enter the width of your DTF transfer. So the way you do that is right here, your print widths. You just hit the plus sign, just call it DTF, and you would type in the width in inches of your transfer and then save it. And then once you do that, it would be in here. So we'll make this 24 by 24, click draw region. Now we're going to place and draw the print region. So we'll just put that in the center.
and you want to drag it all the way out to the edge of the grid. And you'll notice that there's dimension marks out there. Those are outside the print region. And this is it. This is all you really need to do in order to set this up. So it's acting as a product. Think of the grid as the t-shirt mock-up layout, but that's it. There's really not much to it. One thing on these products, do you normally set these to includes free printing if you're going to run it through the designer? Is that
for DTF transfers? Yeah, just because it's not like screen print that's going to vary based on color count. You can typically get away with charging the same rate for each transfer. If we're going to do it this way with just a fixed price, you would check the free printing option here, which would then bypass any print prices from being added on additionally on top of your $8 price, which is what we're going to do here. But if I didn't want to do this, I would just turn off free printing, and then I would need to make sure that my print pricing grid here, you use the digital one, was set up to reflect my DTF transfer prices.
But I do want to mention one thing while we're talking about free pricing. I had an email from a client today, and the question she asked me is like, I have a customer, I have fixed pricing in their InkSoft store, but I want her to have the ability to design in my designer for that store, but I want her to have the same pricing as the fixed pricing. Otherwise, well, what it's doing right now is it's using screen printing or digital pricing, and so the pricing is much lower than what she's normally paying. And I said, well, the thing to do in that case is take that product, whatever products you're selling in that store, whatever products you assign to the store, set it up for free printing and fixed pricing, and that way it'll align with the $25 a shirt you're charging for pre-printed products. And she's like, oh, that's a great idea. But that's how you would do that. That's why that's there.
And it simplifies the whole process too, so that's nice. Let's see. So this is good to go. We'll go ahead and save that, and then I will create the signage product. So add new product, new signage product. Let's call it DTF2. And then you have to select the shape here. This is the most important. Very easy though. For a transfer, it's going to be a square or a rectangle each time. But you have these other shapes here you have access to. If you offer any of these banner types, you can. We'll just do square, rectangle, and then save. Okay. So different controls here, but very, very simple. So first thing you want to do is select your units, and we're going to do inches. And we're going to offer 24 by 24. Set the status to active. And then you'll notice down here, you don't have your print pricing grids. And that's because with signage products, it's not going to interact with your print pricing. Signage products, you just give them the price of the final decorated banner, transfer, sign, whatever it is. And then that's it. So we'll go to the pricing tab. You have a couple options here. You can enter a cost per square inch. So if you know what that number is, say it's 2 cents a square inch, and you want to charge the customer based on a square inch cost structure. Let's say we want to charge 10 cents. That's probably too much, but get the idea. And then the price per square inch will scale based on the dimensions that you set up here. So if I offer a different size, let's say 24 by 36, it's now scaling that based on the square inch structure. Or
a key point here too is if you know the weight of the transfer, and if transfers are going to vary by the ink coverage. So if you're going to, measure out the weight of a transfer, and probably the easiest way to do is put a stack of 10 on there, so you can get a decent weight and divide it by 10. And you want to have a transfer that has a pretty full coverage on it. You can input that weight into the formula so that you can accurately calculate the shipping costs. From what I've seen, the way that customers that are selling transfers, and we have some pretty big customers selling quite a large volume of transfers, they generally do fixed cost. But one of the advantages of using a signed product is you can create one product that has multiple dimensions. So if you use an apparel product, you'd have to create a separate product for every single dimension. You'd create a product for 24 by 24, product for 24 by 16. Maybe you use A4 or A3 dimensions, but with sign product, Joel can go in here and he can do what he just did. He can put in the second dimension and the customer can select 24 by 24. But if they want to see how it looks on a 24 by 36, they can do that in the designer. They can just switch to the new dimension.
So now we're just going to upload an image here. And like I was saying earlier, with signage products, the image you upload here is not what the customer sees in the designer. What they're going to see once they're in the designer is just a red box that matches the dimensions of the size they chose. So, and I'll show you how that works on the storefront. So we'll just upload an image here. So DTF. Go. And then let's go ahead and create a DTF storefront. So instead of creating a new store, I'm just going to make a copy of my clone template store. So InkSoft Core Stores. Here's my clone template. Just hit the 3 dots here. Clone store. Say DTF store. And let's go ahead and bring over all the products and artwork from the store as well. We'll turn that on. So when I clone the store, it's literally going to copy every single thing in the store. The products, the visual layout, everything. Okay. Go to the storefront. And what do you know? It's my cat. It's Julia.
I know that cat.
Yep. So now what we're going to do is assign both of these products to that storefront. So I'm going to open, actually I'm going to have to refresh because I just created a new store. DTF store.
So while Joel's doing that, let's talk about why we move products over. So a best practice, and one of the things I'd recommend doing is going to the InkSoft YouTube channel and going to the best practices YouTube playlist, because this is where we talk about store cloning and how we can incorporate graphics from like Graphics Flow into your InkSoft stores. There's a lot of very useful information in there. But the reason we use store cloning is we can create a model store that has the layout that we frequently use, and you can do this for different vertical markets. So you could do a team store, a corporate store, a niche market store, and you would curate all the products that you frequently create. And then what you would do is you can add placeholder logos to those. So you can put the same logo on all the full chest graphics, the same logo on all the pocket designs, and maybe the same embroidered logo. So when the store comes over, the products come over with the logo, but you can globally swap those. So you can take all of the Julia designs and change that to my cats, Benny and Blaze, and all the Julia t-shirts are going to be Benny and Blaze shirts. And you can do that by print location. So it's a super fast and easy way to deploy stores. And the thing that's smart about it is it's way easier to deactivate products in the store, bring over more than you need, and then just make the ones you're not going to use inactive than it is to go and manually add a bunch of products. It's definitely a best practice. And I don't know, Joel, I haven't created a store from scratch in quite a long time. I have my store templates and I just clone them and then go in and tweak them. Cool looking store though. I like the color combo. Looking good.
Thank you. Yeah, I uploaded Julia as the logo and it's actually pulling in. This is her fur. I think this is her eye color. So
oh wow, cool.
It's working.
Yeah, I can see that.
We've got these two products in the store here. So let me show you the difference. We're going to open up the signage product first. So here's where I'll choose my size and we'll just do 24 by 24 design online. And here's what I was saying. So that image I uploaded, you're not going to see that here. You just see the design box, basically. If I change my size up here, 24 by 36, it's now adjusted the print region based on that. So with signage products, the nice thing here is it tells you in real time how big each asset you include to your transfer is. So, and it's based on the size that you select up here. So this is 14 inches wide by 2 inches high. If I add some art here, I don't have art in the store. Just upload InkSoft file. There we go. So in real time, it'll tell you the size of each asset that you have added to your signage product. And then when you continue, you'll just enter your quantity, get your price. And there we go. Let's take a look at the apparel product now. So here's the difference. Now when I open up this one, we're going to design online and we still see this image. So it's personal preference, really. If you want the customer to see this grid, you would create, a normal product, a non-signage product. And then you can upload an image of a grid like this one. They'll see this. It's not going to give them the size of it or anything like that, but it's more of a visual representation of the size. So each little block here is an inch.
You can select both these objects together and then copy them together, and then you can gang them up on the sheet. And you still have the latitude to go in if you need to rotate part of this or just rotate one of them or nest them in together. One thing about a signage product, if you move the signage product off of the boundary, it will crop automatically. And where that's handy is if you have photos, right? So it's a pretty handy thing if you have a photo and maybe the aspect ratio doesn't necessarily match your transfer sheet. You can actually use that to kind of self-crop. And then also if you notice bleed lines and cut lines there, the cut line is when they're cutting these transfers into their final 24 by 24 sheet, that's where they're going to cut. So in some cases, what they'll do is they'll make the actual print area slightly larger than the cut area, so you don't get white space in there. So if the bleed area is basically allowing the graphic to bleed over the edge so that you don't see any white space. And that's a very common thing in offset printing, and it's an extremely common thing in transfers. Now, something that I didn't know, and I wish I had known this a long time ago, when I order transfers from Supercolor automatically centers the transfer on the sheet and cuts the sheet for me. So I was measuring everything off of the actual image. I don't need to do that. I can actually just measure it off the cut sheet to get everything centered. So I think that's a best practice too if you're selling transfers, is maybe when you in post-production, when you get the file, maybe to relay it out for the client so it's centered so they can, have a little bit better lineup experience. But yeah, that is a cool feature of the signage product. You have that bleed area there.
We'll go ahead and continue here. Next step. Let's buy 5 of them.
Key point here as you're doing the buy now. So to check out, he's logged into his account, so he doesn't have to create an account because he's logged into his account. But when a customer goes through this process and they do 2 things, they save the design and they're prompted to create an account before they check out. Let's say they just saved the design and created an account, but they didn't go past saving the design. They didn't dump it in the cart. They didn't, proceed with the checkout process. 2 things are going to happen. Number 1, we would set up a notification in that store to email us on any saved design. So if Joel goes to the store notifications here, this is just a best practice. And it's not on by default, so you want to turn this on. So add email address, that's going to Joel. And anytime somebody saves a design, Joel is going to get notified and they can add a separate email address for like the art department or salesperson. So anytime somebody saves a design, we're capturing that data and we're able to follow up with them. Number 2 is if they proceed through the checkout part and they don't transact with the credit card, then we get a report in that store that's an abandoned cart. And we might as well abandon the cart. We go through the process and we'll just abandon a cart so you guys can see how that works. Exciting new feature that we're adding is automated abandoned cart messages. And it's actually in QC right now. The feature's been completed. And so you can set up a sequence of emails to go out if somebody abandons a cart. And so you can pester them, saying, hey, listen, I saw you abandon your cart, but here is a coupon, and click on this link and you can apply that coupon and check out and you're a customer now. So that's pretty exciting. So abandoned carts are cool. And if he clicks on one of these transactions in here, you have some email options right now manually, but we're going to automate that. And so we're going to have an automated email sequence. You just set up the sequence that you want. And then you can grab the link to the cart too, and then put that into your own personalized email. But we're automating that. So that's kind of exciting.
Why don't we jump to bulk discounts or volume discounts? With an apparel product, your best bet is going to be your quantity discounts. So that first sign we created, you can definitely discount based on quantity. So let's do add discount here. Let's call it DTF. And then you specify a minimum, say between 12 and 24 products, you save 10%. Hit the plus sign. 25 to 36, you save 15%. We assign it to the store, so it's DTF 99. And then just choose the products that you want to qualify right here. You always want to make sure that's turned on. In my opinion, there's not really any reason to turn this off. If you're setting up a quantity discount, you just want your products to be available for that.
It's a good point, because if you don't have a discount, it won't make any difference anyways. But yes, this is the smart way to do it, because the way this creates the price break. And so one thing to point out, InkSoft is incredibly powerful. I'll have, it's funny, we'll be talking to clients, whether it's a trade show or at on the phone, and they'll, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? And, we've been in business for 20 years now. And so chances are that if it can be done in terms of configuring things that work for signage and apparel decoration, chances are we can probably do it. And there's a reason for that, because we power some very big enterprise level websites that those things are just mandatory for them. The ability to do these things like coupon codes and quantity discounts and have a lot of settings on a granular level on individual products and have different product settings for different stores and all this. So there's a lot going on under the hood, and there's pros and cons to that. If you just work at the surface level, InkSoft is pretty straightforward and simple. But once you get under the hood, and all that power can be a little bit intimidating. And so that's why I think having access to the help center, having access to the YouTube channel, because we cover that stuff in the YouTube channel in great depth through these webinars and individual videos, but also being able to talk to somebody like Joel, the level of the people that you have access to in terms of product expertise and knowledge is somewhat unprecedented in today's business environment. And so Joel and the team that Joel works on, they're your safety net. And so these kind of questions, and you kind of see the banter that goes on between Joel and myself on these webinars where I'm not necessarily clear on something and he can explain it. You'll be doing the same thing with your customer service managers. So big props to the success team at Inktabo. You guys do a great job.
Oh, thank you. We'll go ahead and save that. So now if I go to the storefront, design it, we'll just add some text. I just want to show you quantity discount's going to be kicking in now. The price, you can see here we're saving 10%, 80 cents per product. Quantity discount is working just fine. There is an alternative though. So a lot of times with especially signage products, but most commonly, let's say stickers or business cards, you only want to offer certain quantities like 250, 500, and 1,000. And you don't want to offer any number in between because your supplier only offers those quantities. For that, we have product pricing. Instead of quantity discounts, we would actually use a signage bulk pricing upload. And this only applies to signage products. So the way that this works is actually pretty simple and really intuitive, I think. You just download this CSV template first, and you'll fill it out. And then once you upload it here, it saves your CSV template. So the trick here is you can only have one CSV template, and this one template has to contain all of your signage bulk pricing information. So after you've uploaded your first CSV here, you would then, if you need to make another change, you would then download your last updated file, make changes to that, re-upload it here, right here, and then upload pricing again. And then it would save your new file right here. So I've already got a file here, so we'll download the file.
It's a pretty straightforward data format. And, if you don't have Excel, Google Sheets is free. The shell is the CSV template, comma separated format, as opposed to the native Excel format. CSV files are a very common data format. You would just fill this out. And what are the fields there?
SKU, color, quantity, width, height, cost, and price. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring in the SKU. So this is DTF2. I need to look at the color, which is white. And let's say my first quantity is 250. And that is for 24 by 24, but also 24 by 36. So now what I'm going to do is copy this and paste it down here. And see, the height for this one is 36. So now I've got 250 quantity here for the 24 by 24 and 24 by 36. So you do have to accommodate each size that you're offering here, but it gives you that flexibility. So now I'm going to enter the cost. Let's see, 1152.
So if you're brokering these, let's say you're just a reseller of transfers and you set up this bulk pricing structure, you could put your wholesale cost in that you're paying from your supplier and put your retail in, and that's going to be good for reporting purposes. You actually see what you're making. And we do have customers that do that. They sell bulk transfers. They don't do any manufacturing. They're just buying them wholesale and marking them up and selling them. And so you can absolutely positively do that through your InkSoft stores.
So next, just need to enter the price for this quantity. So let's say 250 times 8. Let's say you get a little bit of a discount, 1950. So just enter your price here. And then these are 11 a piece. So let's say we'll charge $10 a piece for 250. Just make it easy. There we go. And now what you do from here is just go down the list, adjust your quantities. So now we're going to do 500 and then 1,000. So 3,800. Pretty easy to scale up your prices this way. And this is, most importantly, this just allows you to lock in certain quantities that you want to. And now once I have this done, I'll just save this. There we go. And save as. Make sure it goes to my desktop. I'm going to upload that file right here. So desktop.
Part of the reason we do it that way is it's just much easier to manipulate the data than trying to do it in like our own. We don't really need to break the wheel with our own version of Excel. And you'll see this theme of uploading templates that are edited in spreadsheet throughout the InkSoft platform, because you can do this with bulk product uploads and pricing matrices and all that kind of stuff too.
So now I'll show you in the store. Quantity, 250. It's got to be 1950. 500 for 3,800. You can lock in your quantities like that. And so I placed those 2 test orders. And now why don't we go through the whole purchasing and production process from here? So InkSoft core orders. And here's that order right here. So I'll open it up. We've got 2 different product types in it. I can still pull all this together in purchasing and production if I want to. So as soon as an order is generated, all the products in the order are automatically set to InkSoft core purchasing and production. So let's go to purchasing and production. And nice thing here is if you just want to track a single order through production and purchasing, you can just copy this order number, go to purchasing and search the order number. Here they are. And same thing with production, just search the order number. So purchasing is just going to tell you what you need to order. It's not going to track inventory or anything like that. It's just telling you, here's what you got to order. So it's an internal PO tracking system, and it's just telling you, here's what you got to order. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to select all on this page, create a PO, choose my supplier, say Cellite. And if you've already placed your order, you can enter your order number here, your tracking number. When you hope to receive the package, just choose a day, any notes you might have, and then create PO. Now that I've done that, it's just a left to right process through these tabs up here. Same thing with production. So we'll go to the next tab, and here's our PO. Now open it up, and let's say we got these transfers in. We're still waiting on these transfers. So that's fine. We can go ahead and receive these. And now our status is partially received. So if I go back and view the order here, we've got these in, but we're still waiting on these. Let's go ahead and receive these now. And once you reach the receive tab, you're basically done with purchasing. So this PO is just going to sit here until all 10 items have been completed in their orders. So once those orders are complete, this PO is just going to disappear. And then in stock is going to tell you which item goes to which order. It's a very itemized view, so it can get pretty huge. You could see this product goes to this order, etc. Let's see, why don't we create a production workflow for DTF? So in production here, we're going to go to preferences, and you see I've already got a bunch of stuff here, but you can create as many as you want, which is great. So hit create new. Let's call this DTF2. Select a little logo here. We'll use the printer.
What I would probably do, like I think is the best practice, is have a step number one as a quality control step on the art. And then step number two would be a potential art cleanup. And then step number three would be order transfers. Step number four, I'd probably say QC transfers. And then step number 5 would be press. So this is a really neat feature of InkSoft, is the ability to set up custom workflows for different production processes, which is really handy. People ask us pretty frequently is like, hey, what do you guys have for production workflow for direct to film? Honestly, it's really not that different than any other heat transfer process, but it's nice being able to name this out and customize it, because this will have an impact when we go to schedule.
So just keep in mind, these go in order from top to bottom. So once you create it, you might have to rearrange the order here, but top to bottom, create the workflow. And we'll go back to production cards and same thing. We're just going to search that order number. Go. And now these are 2 separate jobs, let's say, but it doesn't matter. You can still add both of these to the same production workflow. So we're going to create a job. Here's our workflow. Here's DTF2, the one I just made. I'm going to name it, schedule a date for production to start, say it will start on Monday. And then here's the due date. So this has some functionality depending on, different functionality depending on shipping or pickup. If the customer is going to pick up from you, it just tells you, this is the day the customer is going to pick up. But if you're going to ship the order to the customer, the due date here actually gives you an internal ship date so that it gets to the customer when they were told that they'd receive their items. So for shipping, just know this is an internal ship date. If you ship it out on this day, it'll get to the customer when they were told that they would receive it. Any notes, and then create your job.
And a best practice here would be collating like designs together. I always think of production cards as being based on the design, and as opposed to being based on the order. So production cards tied to the design, because you might have 27 orders with the same design on them, and be able to put them all together. That's why it's also nice to have a little visual preview of the art there, which is really handy. And if you didn't know the little shortcut for zooming in a browser, because we're a browser-based app, Joel can zoom in here too if he needs to see a little bit bigger. And the other thing is to bookmark. You can bookmark pages because it's a web app. So if you need to get back here, you think you need to get back here, you just bookmark that. And I love that about working within web apps. It's pretty handy. You can even send that link to somebody else. They just have to have a login to your account. So they're not going to be able to see it if you don't have a login. But you want to chat about the calendar real quick?
Go to the calendar. So day, week, or month view here. All the calendar is going to do is just tell you all the jobs you've already scheduled into production. So if I click on a job here, or a day with a job in it, it's going to show me all the jobs I have scheduled here. If I need to get them done in a certain order, like just reschedule this one here, drag it to that day. Let's say we need to get this one done first, so we'll just drag it up to the top. And then when you view the actual job, in the top right, this is where you'll walk it through the stages of your workflow until it's complete. And then same thing when we view the order. All that information is relayed to here. So your purchasing status and your production status, same thing here.
And this would apply to whether you're selling transfers or you're selling product with direct-to-film transfers on it. One of the things Joel and I discussed in advance of teaching today was really wanted to walk folks through the production steps and, doing the purchase order, checking in the goods, converting it into a production card, getting it on the calendar, going in and marking the statuses. That's just fundamental to the InkSoft workflow. All right, so what I want to show you guys is some of the things you can do with direct-to-film. And this is a store I created. This is going into my InkSoft account. It was created from a template. So I go into stores here. One of the things you're going to notice is I have 3 store templates. I have a quick school store. I've loaded that store with the products that I sell for my schools. I put everything in there that I might sell to a school, and then I just deactivate the ones that I don't want to have featured in that store. I did a quick little signage store template, and then I also did just a corporate store template. So this is where I start. Anytime I create a new store, I'm going to start here, and I'm going to clone it. If we go back to this store that I created, this East Eagles Booster store, I did something really fun with this store, is I have the designer built in here, but I also have the Graphics Flow art portal. And Graphics Flow is a sister company to InkSoft. It's one of the Inktavo brands, including Printavo and SignTracker. But these are the designs from the Graphics Flow platform. And so the customer can go in here and do a quick little search if they need to come up with an idea. What is it, St. Patrick's Day around the corner? I could probably type in Irish. I could probably type in St. Patrick's. And they wanted to, say, order that particular product. Instead of them having to do the designing, what they could do is they can add the item and they could submit it to you. And then once that's submitted, here, we'll go and take that and remove it. I'll actually submit this. Why not? And then I could get the design back to them. So I'm not reliant on them having to go into the designer to do it themselves. And there's some required fields in here. They can tell us about their project, and they can specify a date. And if they have a sales rep, these are all custom fields I added. And then if they have source artwork they want to upload, they can do that. And then when they submit this, they're going to get a confirmation that they submitted this, and I'm going to be notified by email and in the app that there's a design request. And so I'm going to go into my Graphics Flow app, and I'm going to go into my design requests right here. And I'm going to click on this, and it says, hey, I'm going to assign that to a sales rep. And so they're going to get emailed, and I can put some notes in there. And here's the graphic right here. And if I want to go and modify that, I would just go over here, go to customize. And the people always ask me, how is this designer different than the designer in InkSoft? The designer in InkSoft is a very simplistic SVG-driven engine. The designer that's in Graphics Flow has the full power of Adobe Illustrator and CorelDRAW. We're natively editing on Illustrator and CorelDRAW formatted files, so we get all of the functionality of that. And I'll just go and type in my favorite Irish pub here in town, Fibbers. It's a multi-layer text effect, so I'll change both layers. And we could go and make additional mods to this, and maybe we wanted to change that to a different color, maybe go with more of like a light gray in here. So once we have this file saved, then we can just save it. We can download it as a PDF, a PNG, or a CorelDRAW file, and then we could bounce it back to them in the form of an art approval, or better yet, just load it into an InkSoft proposal or load it into a store. You could load it into their store if you wanted to, if it was coming from the store, so they could see what it looks like. Put it on a product. So it's just another way of working with the client where that doesn't necessarily want to have to be the designer, but they still want to be able to pick out art. And then you don't have to go in and do all the custom art development. But I did something fun with the East store. What I did is I went into the design ideas in Graphics Flow. I took a softball design and I converted it into a baseball design. Right here. I took this design and I customized it for East Eagles. When I customized it, I turned off the bottom line of text right here. I just went over where it says softball. I turned this off and that off, and I just exported this as a PDF file, and then I just brought it into InkSoft. And the designer, I just designed it right in the designer. And then when I designed it in the designer, I went and retyped the bottom text as placeholder text, and I saved it. And then I added it to this store. So if I go into this store, the customer can come in here and they can edit this design. I limited the color palette in here. So the color palette is, I set up my own custom color palette. So the only colors they have access to are the school colors. So it's just, I always like to show people that, you have a lot of control over palettes and assigning individual palettes to the stores. So you could create a palette that's just your direct-to-film palette that prints really well on your DTF printer or from your transfer company. And obviously, in this situation, they don't have to just use this design. They could upload their own. Or what I did is I created, I think, 8 designs from Graphics Flow that I made them just name drops for this particular school. That's how I did it, which is, I think, kind of fun. This is a very advanced use of the InkSoft Designer, and combined with this massive library of clip art fonts and design templates and Graphics Flow, this is how they work together really well. And people will use Graphics Flow to populate their designer with cool customizable templates, and then also to populate their stores. And I've done that. I've done quite a few custom store population jobs using that same template. So if I come back over here, and I think I've got a West Bulldogs in here that it was the same template. Yep, here it is. I did the West Bulldogs, same idea, same templates. I just customized the template. I used bulk art swapping to change all of the East Eagles designs to the Bulldogs design, so I didn't have to do individual products. And I did another store, which is this Central Boosters right here, which is the Cougars. Same basic idea. I see somebody's been playing in my store. The idea is being able to rapidly deploy these stores and then populate them with very progressive, on-trend, cool artwork without having to go in and do all of the customizing that customers, let's face it, your customers have no clue what it takes to build out this custom artwork. They just go to custom make and screen grab something. You don't have to do that anymore. You can just send them to your portal or to the crate. And just to be clear, the portal is part of a Graphics Flow plan. I just wanted to show you what's possible for creating customizable designs that you can incorporate into a direct-to-film transfer workflow. So that is what we wanted to talk about here today in the webinar. I want to thank Joel for coming in and joining me and showing off his expertise. I learned a bunch. And I want to thank all of you for taking time from your busy day to participate in InkSoft Academy.